All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Breakside podcast. I am Noam, host and creator of the Breakside. Once again, joined by,
Colton Green, good to be here. Glad you're having me still on the show.
of course, one of the many originators of the podcast idea. So how could I say no? Is the real question. But today we are here to discuss the USA Ultimate Club season. You know it. I wouldn't say you love it because I don't know if anyone loves it. It's quite confusing. But it's the main way that we all interact with the sport of ultimate once we are donezo with our time in college. So it's kind of a critical component of the sport here in the US. It runs from like June through like Labor Day, basically, is the last weekend of the regular season. Then we have our sectionals, our regionals, our nationals, and we're done in like mid-October. But as you and I have discussed many times, there are some problems with it, right? We don't feel like it's living up to what it could be. So I want to hear your perspective. What do you think the biggest issue is with the
I
club
I
season?
think the biggest issue is that for some of these big regular season tournaments, teams aren't really trying to win, and they don't need to. And it's flawed. I think you look at any other sport, especially the shorter length ones, they're always trying to win in the regular season. The only like major sport where some games that throw away is baseball, but there's 162 games. Like you can't try for every game, but in frisbee, where elite teams would go to 3 tournaments before the series, like this should all matter and be big games for them. But even though they don't necessarily try to win, they still underbid. So what's the point of trying to win? There's no incentive to try and win.
Exactly, right. And the reason there's no incentive, I did miss this in my overview, right, is because we use this lovely, lovely algorithm that's, it's outlined. It's on the internet now. Ultiworld has recently bought the rights to the projecting tool of the algorithm, but the projecting tool's out there. The actual USAU algorithm is out there. And go look at it yourself. I'm not going to try to explain it without, having it in front of me because I think I would do a very poor job. But, long story short, you take all your games. You get points for how you do in each of those games, depending on who you play, depending on how much you score. Winning and losing isn't really a part of it. It's like more how much you score and how much your opponent scores, which, like, yes, includes winning and losing, but kind of it's more abstract. It's just numbers, which is why it gets into the problem that you mentioned, right? Where teams don't really have to try to win because if they play a hard enough schedule and they, do well enough, it doesn't matter whether or not they win, which again, in a vacuum, not a bad thing, right? But if you think about like what are we incentivizing? To me, the incentives are the big problem, right? Like what are we incentivizing when we use this algorithm? We're incentivizing teams to just score algorithm points, not win games.
Well, I mean, it even goes to Cincinnati years ago in college. They dropped out of a tournament to keep their bid. Like the algorithm encourages people to try and game the system, be like, hey, we can't go to this tournament because it will kill our rankings, which has affected, local tournaments like the local Texas tournament. The big dogs don't want to go because it's bad for their ranking points.
And think about it this way, right? Like, I am doing the same thing this weekend. I'm going to a 1 day round robin that got thrown together on the complete other end of the spectrum, right? Not talking about nationals. We're talking about earning bids from sectionals to regionals. But we joined up like a 14 round robin so that one of the teams in our section can get 10 sanctioned games. I can't speak so that the section can have an extra bid to regionals, which is crazy to me, right? Like I feel like it's wild that teams can just be like, we're gonna put together a tournament and it's gonna be to all of our advantages to do this because of the ranking points, and it doesn't matter who wins and loses this much at this
Yeah,
tournament.
yeah, just get 10 games in. And what if, you secured your bid to regionals? Like you should not want to try against the team that hasn't secured the bid. Like this is just such a janky system.
Yeah, and I think, to that extent too, right? They're like tangential. Um, you know, big name in the Triangle Ultimate, Alan Laviolette, fresh off of a fantastic UFA season. Um, but this man's out here being Kevin Durant this club season, playing on Brunch Club 2 weeks ago, helping them win a tournament. RDU the last weekend, helping them win a tournament, right? Like, and where's he going to be rostered at the end of the summer? I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know if anyone knows. But, you know, it feels crazy this is like what we would do in like high school league and try to like pick up ringers who like didn't have good teams that they were committed to playing for and win a bunch of games with them. But like, those are still your ranking points no matter who plays with your team, right? Like you're playing like a, fringe nationals team with all your pickups, and then you go to regionals and they've all, gone to their respective teams. And now you're seeded fifth or whatever, but you're actually like the worst team there. Like, what is that? Like, what have we done here? We've done nothing. We've done a completely pointless exercise in the regular season.
And I think the US Open's dope. I think having international teams are great, but those games not counting in the rankings, like, you know, for example, Mooncatchers made a bracket run. So like bracket games from the US Open aren't counting towards your rankings points? That doesn't make any sense. How do you think how could anyone think that is a good structure to run anything? That of the marquee tournament, I mean, besides nationals, this one's on ESPN2, ESPNU. Like you're you're telling me that these games don't count for the points? Like they count for sanctioned games, like getting your 10 games in, but it makes zero sense. Like those are good teams. They should count towards your rankings because as you've said, like teams are incentivized. Like we don't, especially if it's like consolation, like, yeah, you want to win, but if you lose, like nothing happens to your rankings points. Like,
Yeah, if I lose by like, 3 or less points to a really good team, like it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter.
mm-hmm.
But it should matter because I lost the game. I didn't win the game. I don't win by scoring 10 points. I win by scoring 13 or 15 or whatever. And I mean, yeah, let's stay on this US Open stuff and really process for a moment, right? Like this is the second biggest club event of the year, like you said, right? The children all there
I
for
was gonna say
YCCs.
with YCC and spectators, it's probably bigger than nationals.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bigger in-person like people there event than nationals, like
Yeah.
by far. And it's the second sort of like biggest weekend of Ultimate in sort of the adult space. Once, excluding college, whatever. I don't know. We can have a debate some other time. Is US Open weekend bigger than D1 Nationals weekend? But yeah, like you said, these games are on TV, right? And if there's international competition, which is super cool, which I feel like you never get to see in the US, right? Like this is really the only time, unless Worlds gets hosted here, that you get to see this. It's on ESPN too. It's on ESPN too. It's not on ESPNU. We're not, bootleg streaming it,
Yeah,
right?
you don't
Like
got to go to ESPN Ocho 3 the stream.
exactly. This is on like most people's TVs. And if somebody is like a fan of they're like, okay, this is so cool. So like what does it mean that this team got top 8 or top 4? Like what does it mean? And you're like, well, actually, champ, that game doesn't actually mean anything because it doesn't
Exactly.
count. Like what? Like what? Like
Like
what other sport has anything that's structured like that? Like it's crazy.
this, where you it's being run like that Maxi Golf from Happy Gilmore too. It's unserious. Like there's no I can't even think of any other comparison. And like even when Revolution was in their prime coming to the US Open, they were working teams. If you beat Revolution, you should have been rewarded because that was a good team. But instead, you're not.
Yeah, for sure. I can't believe just a big Happy Gilmore 2 reference on the
Yeah.
pod.
Shout out Netflix. They should cut me a check for that one.
Netflix, sponsor the podcast.
Sponsor the pod.
We will go to bat for Happy Gilmore 2 when no one else is going to bat for Happy. I'll say anything you want for money, Netflix. That is a
Yeah.
promise.
Hit our line.
Mm, they know where to find us. They know where to find us. But yeah. And to top off the sort of various confusing things about the club season, right? Like we have these just ridiculous names that all mean the same thing for these different flights and categorizations. There's the pro flight, the elite flight, and select flight. I don't even know if I'm doing it in the right order, and I am a frisbee journalist.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I think
again,
it's pro, elite, elite select, select.
oh, elite select. I missed elite select. That's my bad. I don't actually
No,
even know
top
what elite
select,
select
top
is. I
select.
know pro is
It's top select. Man, it's so confusing. And we're frisbee nerds and we don't even know. Like,
pro. I can tell you is top 8 at nationals the previous year.
yeah. Pro, elite, top select, then select.
Elite is bottom 8 at nationals.
Yep.
Top select, I don't know. Select
That's
is like
so it's top selects everyone that lost in the game to go.
okay,
And then select is the following three teams at every like regionals that
cool,
finished whatever place.
great. We nailed it, right?
Yeah.
But so then there are these like fun designations that get you invites to tournaments the next year. Ignoring the fact that there's so much roster turnover, even on these higher level regionals teams, that realistically, sure, right? It's like not a bad indicator of success how a team does the year before, right? But it's not a good one either, the way that like things go, right? Because, sometimes there'll be these like incredible college kids that just want to play on a team with their friends. They'll go get top 4 at regionals, and then the team won't exist anymore the next year. So the flight thing is useless, right? So ignoring that, right? Like it's just it feels unnecessarily confusing. And then there's all these like events. There's, selects, flight invite, there's elite select challenge, pro championships, right? And it's like from a marketing perspective, why is it not clearer what these events actually are?
Yeah.
Right? We
And
just throw these names around and it's like, oh, we're using big words. It's a big tournament, right? But I don't actually know like what's significant about these events or why these teams are here.
and it's really confusing. Say for like select flight invite, SFI, I'm looking at SFI mixed, and there's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, like 8 teams that went to SFI West that aren't select flight. That's confusing to people. People are like, I thought this was select flight. Like, it's super confusing. And I know plenty of frisbee people. They don't watch film, they don't keep up, they don't read Ulti World. So to this, it's a foreign language.
Yeah. And I understand that like we want to reward teams who do well, right? But I mean, and you know, I understand that this podcast itself is sort of at risk of beating a dead horse, right? Like, but the way that things are set up with the Triple Crown Tour and the way that like like with US Open, Pro Champs, Nationals, like the way they like have like we've set this up in the regular season, it's confusing. It's inaccessible. It's beyond inaccessible to new people who want to understand about the sport, right? Like there's no way there's going to be any sort of real spectator fan engagement stuff at the club level, like the way things are set up. Maybe in general, right? I think I've written about this a couple times, but I think like I understand that club is maybe not the space to like grow spectatorship, right? But it compared to pro at least. But there's no chance of it ever improving the way things are right now.
No.
Like there's no it's beyond confusing and it makes no sense. Why would I like I understand that like SFI East or SFI West are big tournaments, right? But if I'm like, oh, these are just like words, like what do I know about these teams that are going to be here? Right? Like like I don't know anything. I don't know. I don't even know if they were in the, top quarter of their region last year because there are these other bids that are going because not all these teams can make it, right? Like there has to be a better way to reward teams who do well. And, you know, a, a solution or a sort of more convincing solution is like, is there a way to do this in the season? Right? Like, I think that that brings up a ton of additional problems, right? Like, if you imagine that they're like, in colleges like Eastern's qualifier, and then you go to Eastern's if you qualify, right? But, I understand that's like a difficult ask to do like qualifiers and then like have teams be planning tournaments like more so on the fly. But that at least feels sort of more intuitive from a
Yeah.
fan perspective, from a player perspective, from an organization perspective, right? Like, and then we like are incentivizing, teams to go to specific tournaments so that they can go to even bigger tournaments, right? Like I feel like and then you are rewarded for winning, right?
And,
Like
and it's
that
good for
feels
new
reasonable
teams.
to me.
New teams that just exist. Like there's a new Dallas Women's Division team, undefeated. They can't get into the good tournaments. Their closest game all year is 13-6. Like it lets teams like that be able to actually compete against the big dogs. Because if not, then you're just like, if you're a new team, you just got to waste a year and be like, there's no way for us to earn a bid. So hope to steal one because there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, because and this goes back to sort of the problem we discussed with it as far as like the incentives getting weird around the fringes of earning a bid either to nationals or regionals, right? Like wasn't it Shrimp last year who like earned the bid by just like going to like smurfing basically at like smaller and like just running really fine margins with point differential and just like winning pretty much all of their games to sneak in a bid at the
Yeah.
very, very end.
Ulti razoring it right now, but they went to Ski Town and Solstice. So did what they needed to do.
Yeah, I feel like we should, I don't know. And now we're getting into like feelings and what are we incentivizing as I feel like we should incentivize people swinging for the fences, right? Like that's fun. It's fun to like incentivize people to push themselves, not like oh, can you win all your games against teams you're significantly better than by just enough to maybe earn a bid to nationals, right? Like, and then there's like no like where does sort of the drama of sport come into play in that, right? Especially if teams have to do this at these like smaller, less covered tournaments, right? Like, how do I, as a fan, understand the significance of what's happening even when we can't shine a big spotlight on what's happening, right? Like, with the media landscape the way that it is right now, like, we get like coverage of, what, once every like 3 weekends in the summer, there's like a club tournament on Ulti World or something, right? Maybe
Yep.
every other, right? Like we're seeing such a small snippet of what's happening. Even like we're seeing a lot of what happens for the top like 2/3 of the nationals field, right? But for the bottom third of the nationals field and the teams trying to enter that, right? Like we don't see any of that, I feel like, right? Like there's some game where one team's best player like has to leave early to go work on a Saturday and they only win by 3 instead of by 8 and that like has real bid implications somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's interesting in theory, right? But like in practice, like, how do I care about that? How do I even know that's happening?
Yeah. And we were talking about shrimp. Shout out the shrimp boys that did what they have to do, but it's just crazy that that's the system we're in. And like I guess they want to keep kind of the same teams in nationals, and I get it. Teams want competitive games. They didn't sign up to go spend a bunch of money, take time off to win games 13-3. But we got to find a better middle ground. And I think the qualifier idea is great. Like, maybe if you made semis at nationals last year, you're automatically in. But let's do qualifiers for everyone else to get in these big events.
I
Like,
mean, not to out myself as like too much of a nerd to people who somehow haven't figured that out already, but I mean, if you think about how like in a general esports scene works, right? Like a lot of times there are these like local events where you have to either win or come top two or whatever, and then, in your local event, right? So presumably you have to spend a little bit of time smacking people who you're way better than, right? But then you can like level up and go challenge, a wider variety of people. And then if you're, the best in your sort of region, you get to qualify for nationals. And if you do well over like sort of that circuit, you qualify for worlds, right? Like there's this kind of escalating thing, and it like allows you to kind of more efficiently use resources, right? Like I don't know. Like we've discussed this before we hopped on, right? But like the idea that like some tournaments could be auto qualifiers for nationals even would add so much drama and gravitas to, the season. And maybe every region, or, you pair regions. And so there's only, like four or so of these, right? But maybe there's like four auto bids to nationals every year, and there's four tournaments where teams can say, okay, if we're the best team on this weekend, right, we don't have to worry for the rest of the way. And we're incentivizing winning, we're incentivized going hard, and we can, implement some form of reward mechanism for teams who do well at those tournaments,
yeah.
whether it's, there's still some bid algorithm in place or something else, right? Um, but yeah, like that would be so fun. And I don't know, maybe it's like a big, like we can experiment with other tournament formats too to like better utilize or better deal with the wide skill variety, right? You can have some big 64 team tournament and run some double elimination Swiss bracket type thing where if you lose twice you're out, or you're just playing consolation, and the big matchups will find each other there anyway, right? Like there's a million different ways to run things. And if, we're concerned that great teams don't want to play terrible teams, right? Well, so you can run it in a way that that's only going to happen once or twice a weekend at most.
Well, and what's great, what they did for PEC 2022, what happened was you had Condors, Revolver, Bravo, Goat. They signed up to play, thinking the big dogs would come. They didn't, so other teams got in. USAU was like, "Hey, it's not fair to them for to not play the good teams, but it's not fair to you. You signed up to this tournament." So what they did, they put the 11 and 12 and the 13, 14 to play the 1, 2, 3, 4 seed. So two played 13, three played 14, one played 11, four played 12. And then they did pool play for 5 through 10. They just, so everyone, the middle teams got to play teams in their level. And it was that mini bracket. So the lower seeds got a chance to play the big dogs. Then after that game, the big dogs got to play each other in the second game of the day. So that was a win-win for everyone. I feel like we should add that into more tournaments. Like, you get a chance, like the teams in the middle play teams around there, and the smaller fish, they get a chance to play the big fish. That's why they want to come to these tournaments. So I think, as you said, just look at different formats. How can we do bigger tournaments? How can we make this more easy to follow, and B, easier for teams to get in without having to game and be like, wow, did we 606 these people? Or like, it's 12-6. If we get broken, this game's going to lose us 20 points. And it's like, so finicky.
Yeah, and like how do you, and like if you're I have a lot of thoughts obviously, but like if you're on TV, right? You're on ESPN2, you're in quarters or semis of US Open or whatever, and this game is a blowout. It's like it's 14-6 or whatever, right? And if you win, if one team scores, they max point the other or whatever, right? Like, what do you like, how do you, as whoever's on the commentary team on ESPN2, explain the significance of this moment? Right? Like, this is actually the most significant moment of the game. But like, how do you even explain that to some, like, I don't know. I just, like, I don't think that happens. I don't think that I feel like the way that we market the sport, it's like winning, we put the emphasis on winning, like every
Well,
sport does, right? Like, and if you're up that much, like, you have the game in hand, you've won, right? Like, we're not adding tension to this story, despite there actually being tension, because it's so unintuitive. And then to your other point, like, yeah, like, there has to be, I do wonder if, like, revamping tournament formats is not the easiest thing to do, right? Because if you can make it so that you can run like a local tournament that, like, the best teams, where a couple of like really good teams will show up to, because they're not gonna only have one game that matters, like, that would do a lot for locals, for all that stuff. Like, I think there's a huge problem with kind of the segregation aspect of things between like the best teams and everyone else. Part of it is sort of algorithmically incentivized, obviously, right? But I think part of the point of club is like, where else do you get those reps? Like, how else do you get that kind of experience? And especially for, people who are looking to move up in the world as far as like on teams go, right? Like, that's an opportunity for you to like play really well in front of a team you want to play on someday. And sometimes you don't even get that chance, right? Like last year, Phoenix didn't play a single game in region until um regionals. And, I think some of that, a not insignificant amount of that, is kind of an indictment on the state of the Southeast women's division right now, right? But at the same time, right, like, they're completely disincentivized from engaging in their community because of the algorithm. So I don't know if you are allowed to run tournaments, like you said, kind of that PEC angle, right? Like, where you can, if you only get like four nationals level team, like, if you can just run a power pools, even with like an 8 team tournament, or even more, or even less, or whatever, like, that would be ideal. I feel like it, like, yeah, there's got to be more sort of creative solutions to give everyone what they want, because I don't have fun going out there being like down, whatever, to some team, and being like, oh, we really need this point, because if we lose 12-7 versus 12-6, it like really matters. Or vice versa, right? If we're up, like, oh, I didn't win 13-5, like, that really hurt us. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. And maybe I'm being anti-analytics, maybe I'm being too old heady, but I don't like that. I really do not like that.
or what I just came up with is, the nationals, you make nationals before you get a bid, you get a bye to sectionals, right? Well, USAU made it. You got to play a tournament in your region in order to get your bye to sectionals. Like, just something like that to incentivize people to play locally.
Yeah, I know we're like off on a, we want people to be more involved in their communities tangent, but I think like it's not unrelated, and like that's a good idea and a good point. Like, and to that same level, like, I think it's okay for there to be some kind of expectation on teams with bigger goals to like make a bigger time commitment, right? Like, on my whatever team that's, hoping to make regionals for the first time, or looking to come in the top half of regionals or whatever, right? Like, who cares about, yeah, like, there, like, if I had to play a bunch of, teams where it wasn't competitive for a weekend, like, that would suck. But also, I wouldn't, because that's like not the team that I'm describing, right? Like, if you are sinking that much time into it, right? Like, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask you to, quote unquote, waste it, in your perspective, to play local teams. And right, like if you can do it so that it's only time that you're committing instead of it actively hurting your chance to make nationals and to achieve your goals,
Yeah.
like that would be great because as we've discussed, right, the incentives are aligned for teams to avoid their local scenes if they're not good enough. Because it'll hurt their chances at making nationals if they engage. And that feels antithetical to the entire sport, right? Like, if we want to talk about what Ultimate stands for and all that, like that feels so far removed from what Ultimate should be.
Hmm. Well, and it's not their fault, but like for example, double wide. They've had a tournament in Oregon, tournament in Indy, and regionals in Colorado. It's like they're not playing a tournament in the state of Texas. I'm like, it's once again not their fault. They're playing the good tournaments as they should. But it is kind of crazy to think like some teams don't play a single tournament in their own state, and why would they right now? That's
And not even just their home, like it's not like Texas is some state with like no ultimate scene or whatever, or a very small one, right? Like,
yeah,
no, not even a little bit the case. Like, big state, big frisbee community in multiple cities, right? Like that is a little wild. And also like travel expensive, right? Like if we can make it a cheaper experience for everyone, not even cheaper as far as money flowing through the community, right? Like, but
yeah.
if we're all giving less of our money to airlines or gas or whatever, right? Like that feels like a win too.
And Lily, as we said, double wide shouldn't have to go to all these places, especially when you're in the middle of the country. I mean, that's the whole thing. How USAU doesn't hold things in the South, and that we don't got time for that. That's a whole nother
Future
podcast
episode, future
future
episode.
episode. But Lily, once again, like we should make some incentive for these teams to want to play locally, but there's no reason to. I wouldn't do it if I were them.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, to be clear, I think it's very clearly none of this is the fault of like the teams, right? Like
Mm,
they're like people know how the algorithm works very clearly because you can see it in all their actions, right? Because you can see it in the high level teams that are, only playing two regular season tournaments and they're only playing two like TCT tournaments,
yep.
right? Like, we can very apparently see that, and we can see that in the way that like some of these rosters are looking at these early season tournaments, right? Where it doesn't fully matter. And we can see it in the way that like, these like international games that don't count, right? Like it's none of this is the fault of like kind of the team. Like structurally, it's not set up in a way that like rewards you for playing in your area in a way that rewards you for winning games as much as I think anyone would like to see. And that kind of sucks.
Hmm.
All right. So before we run out of time, you are now Big Kev over at USAU headquarters. You're the CEO. What are the first couple things you're doing to revamp our club season?
Uh, Masters, they do the super regions. Let's do super region qualifiers for some of this big tournaments because like
Mm,
might not just be able to do your region, but like North Central, South Central, playing Kansas or somewhere. Like you know, let's like people can sign up just like sectionals and just be like, hey, let's if you want to qualify for this, or if you want to add something like day one, the big dogs don't play till like Sunday or whatever. Whatever you got to do, but I think starting to do some super regional qualifying stuff for this big tournaments because A, let new teams and B, lets these bigger teams be able to play more locally. And you don't even have to do ratings points for that games. Just like let teams focus on playing or winning or whatever they want to do, and they're not
mm.
worried about, hey, we're gonna lose points for our bid or in our region in this game. So if I was Big
Yeah.
Cat,
And
I would
imagine
start
the
to look into other things.
excitement of like getting to sit down and be like, there are 4 huge tournaments happening all weekend, right? Like, I think that would be so exciting. Be like,
Hmm.
oh my God, like this is gonna be like such a crazy weekend of Ultimate. Now let's Ultimate Super Regional. First heard here on the Breakside podcast.
Breaking news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like an actual like open competition, like FA Cups type thing, right? Like you get to
Literally.
decide, and everyone has a chance, and it doesn't matter if the same X however many teams win it every year, right? Like the point is that it's like actually open and that it's like actually pure competition.
And the big dogs don't complain they got to go play at MK Dons. You know, Chelsea probably doesn't want to play at MK Dons, but they do it because that's like the spirit of the thing. So like, and you know, who knows, like what teams could win? Like, it's a good
Mm,
time. Like, let's push for that.
yeah. Future discussion is there more spirit of the game in soccer than Ultimate? I think the answer is clearly yes, but worth discussing.
Worth discussing. Paywall.
Yeah, we're
Well,
paywalling that
on my opinion,
discussion,
paywall.
and I'm upping the Breakside subscription price to $80 million a person.
Yeah,
Um, thank you again, for joining me, Colt. I
of
appreciate
course.
it. For all our lovely listeners out there, if you are not subscribed to the Breakside on Substack, please do for more fun frisbee discussions, commentary, all that stuff. I personally will be bugging everyone to donate once again for an impending trip to California to go cover nationals. Maybe do a little live pod or on the sideline pod, which would be fun. So please consider supporting if you are able. And Colton, you got anything to plug?
Anything to plug? Get Paige Becker some help.
Mm.
That's the only real plug I got these days.
Yeah, Kurt, are you listening?
Kurt Miller, if you're locked into this,
Kurt
let me
Miller, are
get the
you listening
reins.
to the
Let me get the
Breakside
reins.
podcast? And are you listening? Stay tuned for a Breakside WNBA podcast too, apparently. Or let us know if there's interest, because we would do it.
We would do it.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone for listening. We will see you all later.